Good evening to you. I'm Danilo Evangelista, and welcome to our tropical weather outlook for Sunday, October 12th, 2025. And on this evening's update, we are talking about an invest in the Atlantic 97L and a nor'easter, which is currently impacting the east coast of the United States right now with gusty winds and especially heavy rainfall. We're going to go over both of those things and more on today's tropical weather outlook. So let's get started obviously with the National Hurricane Center, with Invest 97L here in the Eastern Atlantic, which is now at a moderate chance of development in the next 7 days, although there's still a little bit of uncertainty. And the models today, at least the GFS, is not very enthusiastic about development. And of course, I'll show you the GFS towards the end of the video, but nonetheless, the National Hurricane Center still has a 50% chance of development for this system right now. And it is a area that is located well west southwest of the Cabo Verde Islands, producing large area of disorganized showers and thunderstorms. Environmental conditions appear conducive for some development of the system during the next few days, and a tropical depression could form during the early or middle part of this week while it moves to the west, northwest, or northwest at 15 to 20 miles per hour across the central Atlantic. And if anything, this will stay well far away from anywhere in the Western Atlantic, including the Eastern and Northern Caribbean islands, which obviously got pummeled and just dealt with the impacts of Jerry from a few days ago. And by the way, yes, Jerry is also gone. It did not hold, as I guess sheer and dry air got to it way too much that it was not able to maintain itself as a coherent tropical system. So we are no longer tracking Jerry in the Atlantic, but we still have Invest 97L. And then we have another area here just off the southwestern coast of Mexico, and this is at a low chance of development. And this might also have a chance next week, but we are no longer tracking Priscilla and Octave as well, and Raymond as well. Raymond was right off the Mexican coast here, but that died off too. So looks like we're entering a little bit of a more quieter period right now in both the Atlantic and the Eastern Pacific, which is obviously a very good thing. Here's a satellite imagery of how things are in the Atlantic right now. We have our wave here in the Eastern Atlantic, which I'll get to in a little bit. Looks like we also have some other waves coming off behind it that are trailing, and we are still going to have to watch these waves because there is still a signal for something else here in the Western MDR approaching the islands late next week. So, and the GFS actually has a pretty decent signal out of this. And of course, it is the month of October too. So, we're going to have to keep a very close eye on these waves here over the next several days in the Atlantic. And then you also see a bunch of this convective activity to the southwest of Bermuda. Yes, this is actually the remnant area of Jerry, and you may say that it looks pretty interesting, but there is no low-level center, no low-level really anything attached to this area. It's just a massive, I guess, a mid-level action going on here with a lot of convective activity. But again, nothing organized, and it is obviously no longer a tropical cyclone. But yes, it is the remnants of Jerry. But then we have this very, very big mass of low pressure here. As you can see, that is off the East Coast, or pretty much right now on the East Coast. We have a pretty nice front here, which is bringing some rainfall to the Bahamas. But then we have, of course, all of this activity here throughout the Northeast, Atlantic Canada, Maine, New England. And this is our coastal low, which is bringing quite the treacherous conditions to not just the Carolinas, but pretty much up and down the entire eastern seaboard from the southeast on upward. And what we are seeing right now is gusty winds, heavy rainfall, things that you would typically expect in a nor'easter, and even a tropical system for that matter. But obviously, the thing being is that this is not a tropical system. There are no tropical storm warnings in effect or anything like that. But we are still getting the impacts like we would with some gusty winds, especially in certain areas. I believe I saw up to 50, 60 miles per hour. So that's definitely not pleasant. And you're going to kind of have to just stay indoors throughout the remainder of this weekend. And we're also getting some high tide too. Let me actually bring you here to the National Weather Service map, and we have a whole bunch of warnings here. But the biggest warning that I think you could see on the map that stands out the most is the flooding warnings. We have flood watches, coastal flood warnings in effect. We have flood advisories, coastal flood advisories. And this is the biggest thing that I could really warn you about when it comes to these systems. And we've seen them time and time again. Coastal flooding, rainfall, is kind of an overarching theme you see with tropical cyclones when they make landfall, but also a very big, impactful thing that also happens with nor'easters as well. And just to give you an idea of the rainfall we're expecting over the next several days here, this is the Weather Prediction Center out to the next 7 days. And up and down pretty much the mid-Atlantic and even New England here, and especially peaking right off here in southern Massachusetts along Cape Cod. Rainfall totals 2, 3, even 4 inches. And this is on top of the rainfall that we've already had today from the system. And this will definitely lead to some coastal flooding. And of course, we also have all the, flood watches in effect for the coast. So nothing, crazy, but, this will bring impacts and make an indent on plans, especially for this weekend and into next week. Well, obviously, it made an indent on plans and definitely changed things around today for Sunday. But even as we head into this upcoming week, it's might mess with your plans, especially if you had any outdoor plans. And in general, it's just making the weather very muggy, especially here in the Northeast, but also in North Carolina too. They also got quite a bit of rainfall, and it looks like they still have about maybe in some areas up to an inch, especially along the Outer Banks left. And the reason why this is all very significant, the rainfall, is because again, we have the threat of excessive rainfall, which can lead to flash flooding. And that's actually still a pretty big issue along the coastal Carolina region right now. At least for day one today, there is still a slight risk for flash flooding, and then obviously along the entire coast of the Mid-Atlantic and southern New England, there is still a marginal risk for flash flooding and excessive rainfall today. Then tomorrow, as the nor'easter kind of hangs around, things will get better, but there is still a moderate risk in effect for Monday. And then Tuesday, hopefully, conditions will improve here along the East Coast and things will begin to clear out. And then that leaves us with Invest 97L, which is kind of looking a little right now, not the best looking system, but it is a system nonetheless. This was the, Invest that a few days ago, the GFS was showing a pretty decent storm in the central eastern Atlantic. And this still has a chance to develop. Obviously, I showed you the National Hurricane Center indicates this at a 50% chance right now. But I want to show you the GFS for the 18Z model run. And just to kind of take it out to at least the next 5 days here, notice, you do see the vorticity signature here with 97L, but kind of doesn't really do much. It, tries to consolidate a little bit, but then, just broadens out and then eventually pretty much goes poof, and you don't see anything major that occurs because of 97L. So this might be a bust that we might have here with 97L. Might not really amount to much at all. Versus maybe a few days ago, the GFS was showing a pretty decent storm out of this, albeit that it did remain in the Eastern Atlantic. And that's going to be something with this, even if this does develop, still will not be a threat to literally any land whatsoever. Not the Caribbean islands, not the Bahamas, especially not the East Coast, and not even Bermuda. This is going to stay well far out to sea, but it is October after all, so eventually you would think that climatology will catch up, and it looks like at least this time in the Eastern Atlantic it does. So that does definitely play a role with 97L is in October we start, looking less towards the eastern MDR and the deep tropics for development because we're starting to head into the late season. The pattern is now changing. Things are beginning to shift back closer to home. And then you notice, conveniently, just as I say that, right at the end of the model run here, around 7 days out, quite an aggressive wave with a vorticity signature that, yes, if you continue the model run beyond here, it does go on to develop and become a tropical system in the Eastern Caribbean. And also, as I've said before, the Caribbean is a hotspot in the late season for tropical development. So the stars align, and we are still in the month of October after all. So I don't think things are done just quite yet, even though we are tracking 97L here in the Eastern Atlantic, and it might not amount to much, but there's still a moderate chance right now after all. So I guess there is still a chance that something will happen. We'll just have to wait and see. But with that being said, I'm going to end it off for today's video. Enjoy the rest of your evening and enjoy the rest of your Sunday. I'll be back with another video tomorrow and, of course, throughout this upcoming week. Until then, make sure to enjoy this upcoming week. Make the most out of it. Hopefully, stay safe. Peace, love, and kindness to you all, and have a good night.